Have everyone's attention, please. Thank you very much, y'all, for coming to tonight's Mayor's Town Hall here in the beautifully renovated Harbor View Club House. Show of hands real quick. How many live in Huntington Harbor? And go ahead and put your hands down. How many are living outside of Huntington Harbor? All right, with good representation for the whole city. That's awesome. So thank you all again for coming out tonight. We have a tremendous panel for us to talk to us tonight, talking about anything on your mind, but focusing primarily on crime. So we have with us tonight, oh, by the way, my name is Craig Shopner. I should have introduced myself. I introduced myself to a lot of you already today. I'll get around to after all this to talk to you as well. I'm relatively new to the harbor. I moved here in 2017 after I retired from the Navy. I was a naval aviator for 21 years, and when I retired, I knew. Thank you very much. I knew I wanted to come back to Southern California. I was born and raised in Tustin. My dad was a Marine aviator. I followed in his footsteps. So I'm very happy and blessed to be able to live here and be able to afford a home here on the water in Huntington Harbor, and all the great friends I've met since I've retired and moved here. So thank you all and all my new friends that I met tonight. But you're not here to hear about me. You're here to hear about crime, what the mayor has to say, what the chief of police has to say. And we're also fortunate today, this is not going to be your ordinary, everyday neighborhood watch meeting. We all know we need to lock our windows. We all know we need to have someone pick up our mail when we go on vacation. We're going to talk about what in the Navy, what we call defense in depth, right? When I was a tactical action officer on the Abraham Lincoln, it was all about protecting the high value unit, which was the Lincoln, right? And to do that, we had fighters, think Top Gun, the F-18s that are out there, way out there on cap to defend anything coming into the carrier. We had the cruisers and the destroyers. Even on the carrier itself, there's missiles and whatnot. So to defend your high value unit, which is what? Your home, your family, your community, we have defense in depth up here as well. We have the city, we have the county, and we have the state. And we're going to hear from all of them tonight. But first, let me turn it over to Mr. Mayor, Tony Strickland, and introduce our panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Craig, I'm going to have you introduce the panel when we start the panel. I'm going to have you start it. But welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing this evening? Great. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I really, truly appreciate it. As I've had the privilege to become your mayor, I always think it's very important that we do these community coffees, town halls, and I made a commitment right out of the gate that I would definitely, the law enforcement splits up the Huntington Beach in 5 regions, and I said minimum, we're going to do at least one in every region, at least once a quarter. I know, just like you, as a citizen and a voter, what I get frustrated is elected officials only come around during election time, and I think that's unacceptable. I do believe I get more out of this than you do. Because I do believe the best elected officials are ones that listen, not ones that talk. There's no way that we could be experts in all the things that we have to vote on. I think the smart ones are ones that go to experts like we have our panel today, figure out what's missing, what can you do as an elected official to make things better and your quality of life better. And that's why we do these things. I get more out of it than you do. But before I move forward, I also wanted to introduce my Mayor Pro Tem, who's done a remarkable job for the city, Gracie Vandermark. She's here. And so the reason why we have people from the county, from the state, and here in the city is because it's very smart, I believe, to have a collaborative that says, okay, we're all working together. There isn't a time, I think, first of all, our senator I've known for over 20 years, if not more than that. She does a remarkable job for our city here in Huntington Beach. She's a Huntington Beach resident. And I will tell you, I think it's imperative that elected officials all work together, and I'll say everybody up here, we all work together. We call each other very frequently, things that you don't see, but we actually say, okay, what can we do from the city perspective and coordinate with the state, coordinate with the federal government, coordinate with the county. And so I think those are the kinds of things that you don't see that we do behind the scenes. And we've had a major problem with crime. And I will tell you, we're on top of it. my role, the number one role of government, in my opinion, is public safety. It's the most essential role of government because you have to feel safe in your homes, in your schools, in your streets. You can't have a productive business if you're feeling for your life. You can't have a quality of life if you're feeling scared. And crime's the most essential role. And I will tell you, Chief Para, give him a huge round of applause. He's our jewel. I can't tell you how much I respect this gentleman right here and how great of a job he does for our city. And pretty much I sit down with the chief very frequently and I say, what are the tools that you need from us at City Hall to help you? We have been under 30 officers short because of what we call lateral moves. We're just now, as a council, passing legislation to help him get the tools that he needs to get those 30 officers back. And so with that, I thank you for your time, and I thank everybody for your time. But I know the center has a lot. People don't realize this, but she represents over 1.2 million people. She has over half of the county. She flew in from Sacramento to get here on time. She has other events tonight. And we'll go back to the panel, but I know the center has other events tonight. That's why I wanted to introduce our center first, and then we'll go to the panel. Because, again, this center, Senator Wynn, has been active. She's been on the Board of Supervisors, and now she's a state senator. She was in the state assembly. I've known her for over 20 years. She's at everything. She works hard. She's a Huntington Beach resident, and she deeply cares about Huntington Beach. So without further ado, the Senator, Janet Wynn. Hold on. Thank you. I didn't see that. Natalie Mosier. I didn't know you. I didn't see you. Councilwoman Mosier is in the house, and just give her a round of applause. I'm sorry, Natalie. I didn't see you. So I apologize.
Is there anybody else? Thank you, Mayor. Really appreciate, and the Mayor's right. There is a great collaboration between the state, for myself, Assemblywoman Diane Dixon, and the council and the city. And it's one of those that hasn't really happened, even with my office having represented Huntington Beach for such a long time, that this is now an opportunity for us to work together and to collaborate. Last year alone, for Huntington Beach, we brought back from the state over $3.5 million. $2 million went to the Boys and Girls Club in Huntington Valley that helped support our Huntington Beach Boys and Girls Club and also Fountain Valley Boys and Girls Club. And as the mayor said, I do represent about 1.2 million, a little over a million people. Half of Orange County cities are in my district. I go from Artesia in LA County all the way to San Clemente. So I have, the entire 41-mile coast of Orange County and every city on the west line of Orange County and up to Artesia, Hawaiian Garden, and Cerritos. So from Brainerd Park to Huntington Beach, all the way to San Clemente. So I'm learning a lot. We've done now, agree with the mayor, we've done lots of town halls together with the mayor and the council members in Huntington Beach, and also Assemblywoman Diane Dixon. But Assemblywoman Diane Dixon, we have a lot of overlaps in other cities that we've done town halls together as well. And the mayor's right. The best part of this would be from us learning from you. And I do apologize because we just flew back in from Sacramento. We go to Sacramento every week, 9 months of the year. We come back on Thursday. I actually just picked up my son. He's 10 years old. He's back there. I just picked him up from school. So, because my other one is at a baseball practice right now. So he's my event buddy. And so that's kind of the role that I get to play. Not only being a senator, but I get to be a mom as well when I come back to the district. But just real quick, so I currently sit on 8 committees in Sacramento. 4 of them I am vice chair. The other 4 I am on the committee. So I'm vice chair of the Senate Business Profession Economic Development, B&P. What that one is anybody who works in California that needs a business license, general contractor, real estate, manicurist, behavioral health, any of those professions that when you need a business license in the state, it goes through that committee. Election and constitutional amendments, I'm vice chair, which means anything that has to do with election, campaign, constitutional amendments of state goes through that committee. I'm on health, vice chair of health, anything that has to do with your health care, and including health care insurance, mandates or not, goes to Senate Health. Vice Chair of Insurance. Any insurance outside of healthcare goes to the Insurance Committee, and I'm Vice Chair of that as well. I'm on Banking and Financial Institution, Environmental Quality, Government Organizations, Transportation, and then I'm also on the Joint Committee of Fishery and Aquaculture. I'm the first Orange County legislator that has been appointed to that committee. 5 senators and 5 assembly members. That committee puts together all legislation in regards to along the entire coast of California, whether that is commercial fishery, windmill farms that's coming about, protecting the mammal, protecting the beaches, goes to that committee, and they work in conjunction and closely with the governor's office as well. We will be hosting the first hearing in Orange County through for our Fishery and Aquaculture Committee in the fall. So those are the committees I am on. This year, about almost 2,700 bills were introduced from both houses. We just finished our House of Origin. Because today we're talking about more about crime issues, I'm going to just focus on some of those bills. I'm going to give you some bad bills that has been put forward and an update where they are, and some good bills as well. So one of the bad bills was that SB 94 would allow an estimated 600 of the most violent murderers who were sentenced to death or life without parole to be eligible for early release. That passed. I voted no. Another bad bills, AB 742, would have banned the use of canine dogs. For those you don't know, I have a German Shepherd. My husband and I, in the past, we've actually have trained German Shepherd to be personal protection and search and rescue. One of our dogs ended up being a police dog out of state. The good news is the bill died. Canine dogs are not just, they're very important to us. Search and rescue, bomb sniffing, drugs, you name it, are very important to the law enforcement, but also to protect our law enforcement and also the public as well. And so I'm thankful that the Assemblywoman and on the Assembly side put a stop to that bill, and it's not coming forward to the Senate at all. Some good news in some of the bills that we've that's gone forward. SB 14 is now over to the Assembly side, would increase penalty for trafficking of a minor by defining it as a serious crime, which allows prosecutors to seek longer prison sentences for these offenders. So if you're going to traffic a minor, we're going to put you longer in jail, and rightfully so. That passed our side, and it's sitting in the Assembly at this point. SB 268 will protect victims of rape by reclassifying rape of an unconscious person as a violent felony. That's also over in public safety in the Assembly side. The next bill is SB 236 would get human traffickers off our streets and prevent them from continuing to traffic, and making district attorneys to be able to pursue trafficking cases from start to conviction. Instead of having prosecutors changes in one of these cases, with several of them, we'll just make sure that from the beginning of the case to the end of the case is one prosecutor, because they would have more knowledge than having to change prosecute one after another. The other issue that is of interest is AB 23, which returns the threshold of petty theft from 900 to 400. Unfortunately, it did not pass. It would not get through. But the thing is, though, is I will tell you this time, and I'm not trying to be partisan, but this time it's actually a Democrat putting that bill forward and not us Republican, which is telling you that they're seeing the light. There are issues out there. My district, as I mentioned, goes all the way from Artesia, so I have almost every mall, from Cerritos, Westminster, Little Saigon, Fashion Island, Bellaterre, you name it. Every one of my malls have been burglarized. Not only my malls, my 7-Elevens, my Targets, you name it. They don't care. They walk in and they walk out. And, with the 7-Eleven, they'll walk here, that one down the street, then 2 minutes later, they go to that one down the street. As long as one location. So we have to continue to keep these issues in the forefront in Sacramento. And that's what you're seeing right now, is that even some Democrats in Sacramento are looking at it and helping us, Republican, getting these bill authored and co-authoring with us. Fentanyl is a big deal right now. I've co-authored several bills. One of my bill actually has merged into another bill, which is now sitting on the Senate side, which will, if you are to carry, if you are in possession of 1 kilo of fentanyl, you will be put to jail. You will have an enhancement of another extra 3 years. I don't know. Did you know how much is 1 kilo of fentanyl is? 1 kilo of fentanyl is 10,000 pills. 10,000 pills of fentanyl can kill 500,000 people. Half of my district would die. My original bill was held in committee in the Senate. On the Assembly side, they took my bill and introduced a similar bill. I'm one of the principal author as well. That actually passed the Assembly side. Now it's sitting on the Senate. It's going to go to the committee on Tuesday. Bipartisan effort. We'll see if it's going to pass. Because to me, if you're carrying 10,000 pills, we're not mistaking you for a user. Fentanyl is the #1 killer for ages 18 to 45 in the nation. We are literally watching a whole generation vanish before our eyes. 114 in California die per week. By the end of this year, 6,000 people in California will die of fentanyl. It's a crisis. It is something that if you all here, you're either parents, grandparents, uncle, aunts, I'm asking you tonight. You might not think it. I'm asking you to please talk to your children who are in elementary. I've talked to my children. Talk to the young adults as well. The folks who are dying of fentanyl, a lot of them have never done drugs in their entire life. Fentanyl kills within 4 minutes, 1 milligram. 1 grain of sand of fentanyl will kill a human being. So you need to have that conversation to let them know, especially young children. My children are told not to take any candies because fentanyls are now disguised as Skittles and also made into Smarties look-alike. I tell my kids to not touch any candies given even by their best friend that they've known since birth. If it's an open bag, do not take it. That's how serious I'm taking it, and I'm asking you to do the same because we need to rescue that generation, even if Sacramento is standing idle. And so at this time, I'm going to introduce Assemblywoman Diane Dixon. She has been in the forefront of helping. We work together on sand erosions, on sand replenishment. She has a select committee on coastal committees that's bipartisan that she's put together in Sacramento that has been supported by the speaker. And so we are working hand in hand, not only these legislation, but many others. But I've targeted today just on crime bills because that's really the main topic today. But I want to hand it over to Assemblywoman Diane Dixon.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is a fantastic turnout. So I guess it's a tribute to you, Tony, right? They're all here. Yeah. Well, I'm just joking. To all the law enforcement, fire and police and EMS personnel that we have and a representative from the district attorney's office, we are so fortunate, and thank you for organizing all these key players are organized to help. And thank you, Craig, for all that you do just to bring everyone together, because these issues, public safety, obviously is why we're all gathered here tonight. And I will follow up on just a few more comments that Janet introduced, because legislation is what we do. But let me just step back and talk a little bit about who I am for those of you who don't know. So I'm delighted to be here tonight. For those, many of you do, I know many of you, and many of you know me. But I walk this district several times when I've run for office. So you do have a beautiful harbor community here, and it's just beautiful. We have a similar one in Newport Beach, and that's why I'm here tonight with talking about similar problems we have in harbor-related crimes, so that we have that similarity. The cities that I represent, and my district, Assembly District, is largely contained within Janet's Senate District. It's about 500,000 people. Seal Beach, Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach. We do have the best districts in California. I mean, can you imagine any better series of communities, collection of communities to represent? And the issues that are really important to all of us. Bipartisan commitment to protecting our beaches and our communities, and environmental, water quality, and safety. I mean, we cross lines on all of that. And then my district goes inland, from Laguna Hills, Laguna Woods, Aliso Viejo, and Lake Forest. That's a great district and great people, and I'm just delighted to serve them. So I'm a newbie in Sacramento. I served 8 years on the Newport Beach City Council. I served as mayor twice. So prior to that, I had a career in business for a Fortune 300 company, a global company. So traveled all around the world doing a lot of government relations. And so when I ran for city council, and then now the reason I ran for state assembly, many of you have heard me tell this story, is I could not believe all the mandates coming from Sacramento, unfunded mandates. Now, we all know about housing. That was one of the over 250 new laws were created in the last 3 years related to housing. And I am fortunate, one of the several committees that I serve on, I'm vice chair of local government, and I'm asked to be on local government, and we've been dealing with local government bills the whole session until we push the bills over to the Senate. But let me just give you an example of what happens in Sacramento, and this is kind of what's going on in Sacramento writ large. And Democrats and Republicans sit on local government on all the committees. And so I will see a bill, and I'll say, well, and I'm looking at it, analyzing it, and reading the analysis of it, and I said, well, I'm going to put my local government hat on, and why is it necessary for the state to regulate such and such? I'll give you one. It's sad, it's funny, but it's sad in a way in terms of how power is being stripped away from local governments. There was a bill that would mandate an annual inventory of public restrooms in every city and county in California. So I raised my hand when it's my turn to speak at the committee hearing, and I said, why does the state need to get involved in this? Do we need to pass a law? I mean, when I was on the city council and we needed a new public restroom on a part of the peninsula that didn't have one, and I actually said this in committee, that at 2 a.m. when the bars close and there's this mass migration of humanity down Newport and Balboa Boulevard, they're all looking for a place to go to the bathroom, and it's usually on someone's front yard. And so the residents said to their council representative, can't you do something about this? Well, lo and behold, by coincidence, in the sense we were relocating a 70-year-old fire station and moving it into between Newport and Balboa Boulevards. Used to be a McDonald's, now it's our new Peninsula Fire Station. And I said to Public Works, let's put some public restrooms on that parking lot. So it's simple. The staff, the city staff, the council says, yes, let's add a public restroom. And if somebody else made a case for a public restroom somewhere, we obviously would listen. So I made this argument, and it was a party line vote. And my resistance to it lost, and so that was the local government committee. Then it went to the floor of the legislature, and I gave the same story on the floor of the legislature, and it passed. And then it went to the Senate, so you could deal with public restrooms in the Senate. Public safety, everything is party line vote, and this is not a partisan statement. This is true fact, and quoting the Democrats in charge of public safety, and all the public safety people here know this, that there is a conviction, not in the penal terms of prisoners, but there is a conviction that helping people who have had a difficult life avoid crime by giving them the necessary resources and support through community services and whatnot. And that sounds great, and I personally support whatever we can do to lift people out of poverty and on a potential life of crime or getting involved in gangs. Well, that doesn't always work, and there are a lot of people who commit crimes and murder people, and they should probably be sent to prison. Well, there is a desire not to imprison people, and you probably read that prisons are being closed and emptied. So this is a real struggle for those, and there are moderate Democrats who support gun enhancements, fentanyl enhancements. I mean, this is a huge issue, bipartisan issue, because even the mod Dems can't get the support for this. So I announced a couple weeks ago, you may have heard this and you'll be hearing more, ACA, Assembly Constitutional Amendment 12, which would bring it to the voters on a fentanyl enhancement related to a similar laws provision related to drunk driving. If you drive a DUI and you're convicted of a DUI, you are admonished, it's called the Watson Amendment, it's in state law, you are admonished that if you commit another DUI, you are going to prison. Similar logic, if you are convicted once for dealing with fentanyl, if you're caught again, you're going to be admonished after that first conviction. You will be admonished. If you do this again, if we see you again in law enforcement, you are going to go to prison. I couldn't get that out of public safety. And Senator Umberg, who's a Democrat of Orange County, had it in public safety, and he couldn't get it out in the Senate. He couldn't get it out of committee. So we're both sides, partisan, bipartisan, struggling with this. So I've introduced ACA 12, take it to the voters. I'd like it to go, it will have to go through the legislative process. It'll go through public safety to the floor of the Assembly, move over to the Senate. And Senator Wynn is supporting it as well. And we'll try to get it through the legislative process, and it automatically, because it's a proposed constitutional amendment, will go on the ballot in 2024. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't get through the legislative process, there will be an initiative drive to get the signatures to do it. The people have to make a decision and have to have an opportunity to vote on this. We have in Sacramento have experienced the last 3 or 4 months, we've had many news conferences, press conferences, victims' families. Of course, the victim to the fentanyl are no longer with us, sadly, and they're young people. And the families are an organized group of families who are demanding that the legislature do something about fentanyl. It is heartbreaking that these families, and many of them are in this district. I don't know if Perla is here. She lives in Seal Beach. Her son took 1 pill and passed away. It was killed in 4 hours. Another family, it's called Alexandra's Law. That's the name of this proposed constitutional amendment. Family in Temecula. Daughter on Christmas Eve got a pill online. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily that they shouldn't be buying pills online. But that's what kids are exposed to these days. That's why it's so important, as the senator says, to educate your children, your grandchildren. But anyway, you'll hear more about this. I don't want to steal the thunder from our law enforcement and our district attorney speaker. I just want you to know that we're fighting every day, and the odds are against us. As a minority party, a super minority, it is a struggle, but we will not stop speaking about these issues because we need to raise the public's awareness. Now, maybe you don't memorize every single bill that the senator and I are pushing, but we are working hard for you to keep our communities safe. It is the #1 job of government is to keep our communities safe, as the mayor said. So just know that we're there fighting for you. I'm not discouraged. A lot of people do say to me, "Oh, Diane, how's it in Sacramento? It must be terrible." And I say, it is pretty bad, but I'm determined to have a voice, and as my colleague has a voice, and from the city level to have these voices. Never be quiet on these issues. Demand safety. We know our law enforcement, our first responders, are aligned with us. They want safe communities too. One other thing on community, I just want to say, last Friday, District Attorney Todd Spitzer and Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy had a joint news conference. You may have read about it. The Register had a front page story about it. The Chilean gangs, and this is really a tee up to our police story, are coming into our cities. You'll hear more about it. coming into Newport Beach, coming into Huntington Beach, through the harbor, through panga boats. We're seeing the same thing. But the issue is that these Chilean gangs, it's not like they're illegal immigrants. They are here legally because they're here on a visa that allows certain countries to have a certain number of visitors on a visa. So they are given a visa, or provided a visa. What happens, though, with the Chileans, there's no background criminal search from Chile, from the Chilean government, to give the background information on these Chileans. So they come into our country with a legal visa, commit crimes, and then go back to Chile, and they still don't have a public record. They can't be arrested here because they don't have a criminal record. The law enforcement folks will tell you more about it, but there is emphasis now. Todd Spitzer's working on it, working with the federal government, because we can't get the laws in California to really help on this. And the federal government is involved because of Homeland Security and getting the administration to eliminate Chile, or require Chile to do criminal background checks, or eliminate them from this particular visa program. So just know, residents, there's a lot of information, but we're all here trying to keep our community safe and working at all levels of government. And it's just a delight to be here. Thank you, Craig, for organizing all this. There's a lot of information because we're doing a lot, I guess. All right, so thank you very much for allowing me to speak for a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nguyen, Assemblywoman Dixon. So if I can go back to my Navy analogy, we just heard from the Aegis cruiser and the Aegis destroyer. These are the ships that have surface-to-air missiles that can go out miles and miles and miles, shoot down hypersonic missiles before they even become a threat to the aircraft carrier and whatnot. And so that's the good fight they're fighting for us up in Sacramento, trying to put in legislation that protects, not just here in Huntington Beach, but putting in policies that protects all of the state of California. We also have today, right, our top guns. We've got, from the Huntington Beach Police Department, we have Chief Parra here. He's going to talk to us a little bit. And a great segue about the transnational organized crime groups. He's going to talk to us a little bit about what we're seeing specifically from that threat here, what's changed recently, and I think you're going to hear some good news stories, especially for the harbor. And then we're very fortunate to have with us the Assistant District Attorney, whose primary responsibility, and correct me if I'm wrong, is organized crime. And Assistant District Attorney, and I'm going to screw up his name even though I practiced it all day, Shane Lieben. Close enough. I'm German too, and I can't pronounce his name, so I'm going to call you Bradley if that's okay. If that's okay with you. But he's got some good news stories. Perhaps give us a little bit more background on that press conference with Speaker McCarthy and some of the initiatives that he's running, a vertical prosecution program, and he can talk to us about that. And then last but not least, show of hands, especially from the harbor residents, how many people know that we're protected from the land and the sea by two different police forces? Yes, absolutely. Sergeant West here is our harbor patrol leader in the harbor. So you'll see their boats, their patrol boats out on regular patrols, searching the harbor for any crime that happens on the water. And they do a lot more than that. We're going to talk to Sergeant West about all the capabilities and services they do. And then last but not least, representing Supervisor Doe's, thank you. Representing Supervisor Doe's office, we have his Chief of Staff, Mr. Van Tran, and so you can see we've got the whole defense in depth here. We've got the police, we've got the county, we've got the state, and now let me ask you folks, who is the aircraft carrier? Who is the high value unit, and what do you guys do to protect yourself? Let me see a show of hands right here. How many people know, and keep them up, I'm going to do a little exercise here. How many people know, not just their names, but actually know your next door neighbor, your absolute next door neighbor, who they are and what they do? Yeah, everybody. Yeah, that's great. Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. How many people know the neighbor next to them? Keep your hands up. I mean, when I say no, I'm not just saying, oh, that's the guy who drives the Lexus, right? And I think his name is Craig. It might be Greg. I mean, you know him. You know them. You know something about them. Okay, one more house over. So 3 houses over, and then one more after that. And then one more after that. Okay, not bad, not bad. So that is the key. That's the key. We got to know each other because we are the high value unit, right? We got to know who should be in the neighborhood, who shouldn't be in the neighborhood. And when you see something, what is it, Chief? When you see something, say something, right? So when you see somebody that's out of place, and I don't know if you guys know this or not, and I'm sorry, I'm talking too long, but the Chief has roundtable discussions, and I just saw the one that he had with Chief Para. It was great. And one thing you said, Chief, what was it you said about you can never bother us? What was it that you? It's not possible to bother the police. Can you talk a little bit about what you guys are doing, what your challenges are, and specifically about the transnational crime group and what we're doing here in the harbor to address that?
Yes, of course. So I'm going to kill myself on this cord. Hold on a minute. But no, I like to stand with that. So, there's nothing that's more true than that. It's so funny because I find in communities, particularly like the harbor, that the attitude is, well, I don't want to call for that. I don't want to call for that because I, quote unquote, I don't want to bother them. Well, the whole police force is yours. It's not mine. I happen to run it for you. So that's yours to call. And it helps us so much when you call. And there's simple words. See something, say something. But we had a burglary here a while back. It was months ago now. But where the person that called us the next day, and she saw a van the previous day, and that van actually happened to do pre-operational surveillance. She didn't know that, but she didn't want to bother us, so she didn't call. And what happened the next day? That van came back, and that van did the burglary. So what the message is there is that, when you call on a suspicious vehicle, we're just going to come out, we're going to check it out. I think the perception is that when you call, they're going to have 500 units, we're going to come out, we're going to throw people out of cars, put them on the curb. That's not what we're going to do. We're just going to drive around, we're going to look at the vehicle, we're going to look at the area, and then we're going to talk to that person. And if it's something that they're there, they're waiting for somebody or it's a delivery or something like that, we're going to tell them, it's very nice to meet you, and we're going to move on our way. But if there's something we develop during that, some suspicion, then we're going to take that to the next level. But we can't do that without the reporting. So I have to tell you, you are our partners. You are the ones that can help us help you. And I can't tell you enough how important that is. But while I'm doing this, I'd like to introduce the lieutenant, who's Lieutenant Altenbach. He's about 8 feet tall. He's back here. You can't miss him. But he is. Well, Lieutenant Roman Altenbach really cares about this community, and he is your direct representative. The way we split up the city, this is his part of the city. He has responsibility for this, so he's the area commander. So when there's an issue in this part of the city, my first point of contact is I email him, I text him, I call him, and he knows that I feel bad for him, but it's regular, and it's all day or all night, whatever, but he always takes a call, so God bless you. And he cares, and he wants to fix these issues. And he happened to be a sergeant for our homeless task force before this, so he's intimately knowledgeable about homeless issues, homeless task force issues, and things like that. So he is a valuable resource for you. And I saw my patrol captain here. Yeah, he's hiding. Oscar Garcia. He's back there. He is the one that also is responsible. So what we've done here, and the harbor had, as we know, we had the meeting about a year ago, and we talked about the burglaries, and we talked about the increase in the South American theft group burglaries. But what we did in response was we listened to you, and we went out and we put those big the signs up, the electronic signboards out there. We developed some rearview mirror hangers for you to identify your car or your vehicles as being in the harbor area, so that if somebody didn't have that, technically we would be able to find them easier. We've installed numerous cameras in the harbor all over the place, and they're high def cameras, and we have access to them instantaneously, so we're monitoring those. We have we've increased some meetings like this. We've been out more. We increased patrols. We've done a bunch of undercover surveillance. In fact, it worked. The see something, say something worked, but I didn't like it. So I had some undercover guys here, and then one of you called on them, which was great. But I was like, that's a problem. But I liked it, so I got a hold of them and said, you're undercover, but you're not doing that great. So we have invested a lot of resources in this area to the point where citywide so far this year we've had about 64 burglaries, probably one or two more since a couple days ago, but we've had 19 citywide of the South American theft groups. We've had 3 in the harbor area, and it's 3 too many. But we're not having an epidemic in the harbor area right now. Now, is 1 too many? Absolutely. I don't want 1. And with your help, we can keep that down. Now, I would love to sit here and tell you, because I'm the greatest police chief in the world and I got all these great ideas and I've done the greatest things, that it's down. It is down because we've done some great things. But it's also down because it's still sunny outside right now. It's daylight savings time. These burglars tend to gravitate towards beach parking lots and other areas during this time of the year, and after the changeover in the time again, when it's dark at 5 o'clock, they will start coming back. And it's so important that we revert back to see something, say something. And so I can't implore on you enough that if you have that, if you have any, you guys know when you drive into your area, that car just doesn't look right, or that person just doesn't look right, or I haven't seen them before. Just call us, and if you don't call us, you can get a hold of us on My HB app. If you don't have the My HB app on your phone, I highly suggest you get it. It's a great tool. You can report so many different things on there. I'm older, so it's difficult for me to figure out any of that, but I just give it to my 14-year-old. He's on it, and we have it. But it's actually geared to where it's user-friendly, it's easy to report things, and that's for obviously non-emergent things. But it helps us immensely, particularly with respect to homelessness, coyotes, graffiti, things like that. But we're your resource. That's the bottom line. We are your resource. We are here for you. And my goal is to keep crime here to a minimum. There's one area, the burglary is obviously a huge concern. The second area here is we've had about 25 so far this year of theft from vehicles. So it's unfortunate because I can recall when I was young and I was first driving, I leave all kinds of stuff in my car. I didn't worry about it. Half the time I didn't even lock my car. So we're not there anymore. I am paranoid myself all the time now when I'm driving my vehicle around. If I stop and I'm going to go into a store, I always get out of the car and I look in it to make sure I don't see anything, because people are walking by, and if they see it, they're going to smash the window and get in your car. They're also going to use a newer technique now, which is a distraction technique. So if you go to Bellaterra or you go to another place where it's busy, what they'll do is when you're getting back into your car or out of your car, somebody will distract you from one side while another person's going in before you lock your car, or when you just unlocked it and they're getting something from your car, or they're getting something from you in a grocery store. If somebody distracts you in a grocery store and you're female, grab your purse. Take it out of the cart, because as soon as they distract you and you're turning around, yes, can I help you? Somebody that's right with them is grabbing it and on the way, and you don't even know it. And it's quick, and they walk. Nobody's in a hurry. They're not running. They're not making this really obvious. So just be aware. Be situationally aware. And I don't want to take all night, so I know we're going to take questions, but I do want to talk about Bradley here. So I don't know him well, but I know he's a thinker on his feet. And I'm going to give you a quick story. So we went last week. We had the press conference with the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. We had Todd Spitzer and several others there, and Mr. Spitzer was getting into a story with these victims, and he's passionate, and he's talking about this ongoing case that they have, and he started to go into some case details, and he's in a room with a lot of people, and a lot of people that are what we would consider to be heavy hitters, and he's uncomfortable. I can see, and finally he says, "Okay, excuse me, okay, people, I'm about ready to get fired, but Mr. District Attorney, you can't talk about that." And it was hilarious, but he's been so helpful for us, and this vertical prosecution unit, it allows him to be the single point of contact in his team for all of these South American theft group burglaries in his region in Orange County. And so the sharing of information has gone from minimal to exponential, and that has allowed us to solve cases. So we are so helpful, we're so grateful for you and thankful for your expertise. So.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. And And another great segue, right? Because we do want to talk about what's been happening with the transnational organized crime groups, the effort of the DA dealing with the Department of Homeland Security, trying to get this visa waiver program revoked, and whatnot. I called it the life cycle of a burglar, right? So what happens? A burglar breaks into your home, you call 911, the police come out, and 9 times out of 10, perhaps, you don't know what happens after that. But hopefully, maybe 6 or 7 times out of 10, we catch the guy, and we start to prosecute them. And that's where, if you pardon the pun, this is where law and order takes over, right? So the law catches the burglar, and order convicts them. So over to you, Bradley, for if you can give us a fill in on what's going on in the DA's office. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. A couple things very quickly. First of all, Dr. Vu sent me a flyer today that he sent out for you all with our pictures on it. I had never seen that before, and I looked at the picture, and it's me yelling. And he got that, I think, from the internet. In my defense, I was at a human trafficking thing, and I was speaking on behalf of human trafficking victims. So I was passionate, but I'm not a yeller normally, so forgive me. But he found that on the internet. Also, too, just so you know, for what it's worth, Assemblywoman Dixon, I geek out. I'm excited to meet her in person. I've heard a lot about her, and I know some mutual people, but I'm excited because I actually read the Register recently about her fight on the fentanyl movement, and she's uphill battle, but she's fighting a good fight. So I was all excited. I geeked out when I got to hang out with her for a few minutes earlier. So I'm just going to let you know what we're doing is at our DA's office, and then obviously answer your questions best we can. About a year ago, we started recognizing that residential burglaries were out of control in the county. You have felt that personally. I will tell you, I have not been a victim personally, thank God, of a residential burglary. I was in a homicide trial, actually, and my wife, it was 3 months I was in it. My wife was holding down the fort, and our car got broken into. And just that, she called me in the morning and go, hey, someone was in our car. And I was actually, the city I live in, I was sitting next to the cop in that city, and I look, I'm like, you're failing me, man. And he's like, I'm sorry, I've been in this trial, But the reason I'm bringing it up is just the car part of it. And I'm a prosecutor. I see the worst humanity has to offer, and I was livid, right? My wife was beside herself, and so I do understand a little bit of that personally, and I've had other crimes happen to me, and I've had the blessing, in a weird way to say, of meeting with a lot of victims. And that's been very important to me. So by the way, if you're a victim on one of our cases, please reach out to your DA. I've got amazing victims, just amazing humans who will bug me, and they keep apologizing, hey, do you have time to talk? Is it okay? I'm like, yes! I literally do this job for you, right? And so, if you are a victim of a case and you want to know about your case, reach out to our office, reach out to the prosecutor handling the case. We'll talk to you. So on that note, we had a bunch of these burglaries, and we're like, hey, this is not okay. People are terrified. And what we learned very quickly is if someone gets burglarized, you have forever changed their sense of security, right? That family, not just one person, the entire family will never again feel that same sense of security. And then you find out that their neighbors, hearing about it in the neighborhood, will never again have the same sense of security. It's unacceptable, right? We have failed you in government on that front. And so as a result of that, happening throughout the county, we started what's called a vertical prosecution team. So Todd was gracious enough, DA Spitzer, sorry, I'm going to be professional, DA Spitzer. But DA Spitzer was gracious enough to say yes and greenlight a program where we vertically prosecute organized home invasions, organized burglary, organized retail theft. So for instance, you all had a smash and grab at a jewelry store sometime back. My team has that case. The organized crews that are hitting homes, my teams will have that. So Huntington Beach has a dedicated prosecutor that they can go to directly. As soon as that crime happens, Huntington Beach PD can reach out directly to the prosecutor that's going to handle that case from filing to pre-trials and all the hearings in between and all the way to the end. I'll just let you know as well, when we first started, the first order of business, I've had some experience starting vertical units, and it's kind of the method is you learn, right? You learn as quickly as you can to find out what the crime is, how you handle that crime. Then you train and work with law enforcement on what they need to build that investigation for you, and then you prosecute. Scorched earth, right? And so I'll tell you, with Huntington Beach, one of the first chiefs that we met with was Chief Barrett. So we came in and met. He didn't know me from Adam. And we sit down with him and we go, okay, we're creating this vertical prosecution team. And he's like, I'm in. And you're like, oh, okay, in my head, I didn't tell him this, but in my head I'm like, man, we haven't told you what we need yet. I just tell you that so you know you are in amazing hands. Like, I walked out of there. He's kind of an intimidating individual. And, like, he's scary looking, and you're like, he's all intense. And I met a lot of chiefs and sheriff commanders and command staff and stuff, but he's an intense guy. And I walk in like, oh my goodness, this is gonna be a hard meeting. And then within minutes of us explaining what we want to do, he's like, he's in. And then I got to chat with your lieutenant back there about this meeting. And I was like, hey man, what am I in for when I go meet these folks? And he's like, they're amazing. So I'm like, all right. So by the way, if you are not amazing, it's on you, bud. That's kind of a long story of how we got started. So now we run a prosecution team of 3 full-time prosecutors. I help run that team. We have investigators that are dedicated to that program. As far as and we'll ask questions, and certainly if there are questions related to South American theft groups that we're dealing with, I'm happy to answer that. But we are, a big coordinated effort on this is to work together, share intel, and share prosecution. So for instance, we will work with Huntington Beach. We host, and they host regular meetings about sharing intel, trends in crime, what we're seeing. One of the things that we noticed early on was there's sometimes a breakdown in law enforcement where there would be a crew of criminals that's being looked at by Huntington Beach and by Newport at the same time. And we're like, hey guys, and so now they've been incredibly gracious. We put them in the room together. We all talk about it as one unit. Obviously I'm on the law side, can never tell them what to do, nor would I, but we work together functioning as the same team. And that's already yielded us pretty big results. I'll tell you, just my team, I should say the DA's office's team, we started in August officially of last year. We only take cases where they're highly organized, sophisticated, violent, etc. So we have a criteria, and just out of those, we had, I think we're at over 150 defendants. Most of those are in custody. Most of those, we have no acquittals, no dismissals, except for one, which is a unique situation. And on top of that, we've been working with the federal government as well. So there's legislative issues. Obviously, you've heard about Speaker Kevin McCarthy. I can talk about that in a minute, but we're working with the federal government as well to say, hey, are there certain crimes? Can we go after them federally? Can we go after them locally? Are there things that the city can be doing to aid in those prosecutions as well? So we're working as well with our legislature. Uphill battle, not with these folks, but the rest of them. And so that's an uphill battle, but we're trying to keep our fingers on a pulse on what legislation's coming down, because obviously that legislative stuff affects me directly more than anything else that happens, because the penalties, the way I do my job is affected by Sacramento. And so we're trying to hit every front we can to attack this problem. Unless there's any questions, I know later.
Yeah, we're gonna do some Q&A in a little bit, so thank you, Brad,
for having
that. And not too long ago, I think we're going to say goodbye to our state representatives. So thank you, Senator Nguyen, for coming out. Thank you, Assemblywoman Dixon, for coming out.
Thank you so much. My field representative, Cooper Stroll, who's against the wall back there. Raise your hand, Cooper. If you have any questions on the state for my role, please talk to Cooper.
I also have with me my representative in Huntington Beach is Austin Edsel. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to him directly, and you'll get to me or whatever we can do to help in Huntington Harbour and of course all of Huntington Beach.
That's not going to happen now, but thank you. Say again? Once again, thank you, Senator Nguyen and Assemblywoman Dixon for coming out tonight and sharing your time with us. I want to get into something that I just believe it or not, I'm on the Harbor Commission, and Sergeant West and his predecessor have been coming to the Harbor Commission meetings since the inauguration, when Mayor Emeritus Semeta stood us up, and I had no idea the capabilities that the sheriffs have. Right? I just see, I used to see their boats cruising around. I go, okay, well that's good. They're kind of patrolling, but there's a lot more that they do for us from a safety and protection standpoint than we know. So, Sergeant West, if you could share with us what it is your mission is on the harbor and some of your capabilities, I think that would benefit everyone quite a bit. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Ron West. I'm the station commander for the Sheriff's Harbor Patrol here in Huntington Beach. As Craig was saying, he didn't know, or the commission didn't know a lot about what we do, what services we provide. We have an MOU with the city of Huntington Beach. We provide law enforcement services on the water within the harbor and the coastline, all the way down all Orange County. I'm only 1/3 of our harbor patrol. Our main station is in Newport Beach, and we have Dana Point Harbor as well. So countywide, we've got about 40 deputy sheriffs who work for the harbor patrol, and we are all seasoned police officers. We've worked as street patrol and jails and various different assignments before we come to the harbor. Once we transfer over here, we become advanced life-saving medics. We become hazmat first responder operators, boat operators. We work rescue boats, boat handling, boat towing, how to operate machinery to pump out your sinking boats. We also have a dive team. We're capable of doing that. We've got all of the resources that the Sheriff's Department provides with that one call. So as Chief Parr was saying, if you see something, say something. We also communicate and work collaboratively with Huntington Beach Police and Seal Beach Police, depending on which side of the line we're on, and share information. If they need a water resource, we're up and ready to go. And if we need a land resource, we call them, or we will take them on our boats, give them a life jacket, and take them out to where they need to be. So for you, the citizens, don't hesitate a moment and wonder, who should I call? Is this a sheriff thing? Is this a city thing? Is this a Seal Beach thing? That's not your worry to have. What our guarantee is to you is that no one in Orange County is going to go without police services. If you call for help, one of us is going to come, or both of us are going to come. We'll let us worry about whose jurisdiction and what this needs, and what services it needs. We're also firefighters. We're trained in marine firefighting. If a boat catches on fire, or it's a residence that catches on fire that's on the water side and we can get to it, we'll be there and bring the whole ocean with us until we run out of gas. So the calls, we did get a call. I don't know if you've been over to our station at the end of Edinger here. We have had a call before, a complaint of us wasting water during the drought. So someone didn't realize where that water came from. But even that person is welcome to our services if they call. We'll be right there and help them out. So along with the area inside of the city of Huntington Beach, we also cover the Naval Weapons Station, the water in Anaheim Bay there. As most of you know, that's a transit area between the big ocean and the harbor. The Navy, just their mere presence of being there has deterred a lot of maybe vessels with criminal intent, or not up to your best wishes, from even coming inside of the harbor. So Huntington Harbor is unique in the sense that the only road in and out of there by boat is through the Naval Weapons Station. So you pull in, you see a giant guided missile cruiser parked in front of you and Navy security boats cruising around. And maybe we'll just keep going up the street to Long Beach. So, and that's kind of what, crime prevention 101 will tell you. It's like the theory about running from a bear. I don't have to be the fastest one. I just have to be faster than my buddy. Same with residential burglaries and thefts like that. If you make yourself a hard target, you don't have to be completely secure. You just have to be a little bit better than your neighbor. That way they go over there. But in reality, we don't want anyone to fall victim. Right? Let's keep going. So the goal is to keep it all the way down the street. So when these things occur, and as Brad was saying, it really hits home when you become a victim of crime. All of us are in the business of criminal prevention, prosecution. You've got now Cooper and Austin here representing, and go back to junior high government class. It's a very, very rare occasion when you have the three branches of government sitting in the same room with you. You've got legislative, judicial, and executive all here to answer your questions. So anything that comes to mind, any questions you have for me or for the DA or for the city chief or the mayor, legislature or Senate, please, we're here to talk, we're here to answer your questions. The best thing that someone brought up in the beginning is, the best thing we can do is listen. All of you know what we do, or you can look it up online, but the best thing we can do is listen, hear back from you, and maybe fine-tune our services a little bit for that. I brought up in a meeting when the commission came down and asked, well, why can't you do this, why can't you do that? With law enforcement, and as the chief will tell you, we can only enforce the laws that are on the books. We can't make up things, we can't skirt outside the law. There's lots of rules and regulations written into our constitutional rights and everything else, or criminal procedure, that if we go around it, you've blown the case. So we have to do it by the book, and that is to show out that balance of power and prevent police officers from doing poor work. So we're all in the business of doing our job. He says you can't bother us. I say when someone's being paid a salary to do a job, nothing is inconvenient. So you guys are paying us to be here. Don't feel bad that I had to put my sandwich down and get up and go tend to your problem. I can always eat later or bring it with me. So that's what we're here for. That's our services we provide. And then again, if you got any questions, we're here to answer those.
Great. Thank you very much, Sergeant West. And then
I do want to add, before we go to the panel discussion, the mentions of fire. Chief Haverly's in the back. He does a remarkable job as our fire chief. Let's give him a big round of applause. He does a remarkable job. And then I know Jen Carey is here from our city. Jen Carey helped organize this as well. Let's give her a big round of applause. She does a great job for the city. And if you do work for the city, please stand up if you work for the city. But I think I covered everybody, but I just want to make sure Chief Haverly's hiding in the back, but he's here for you also if you have any questions regarding our wonderful and excellent fire department. So.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. And Assemblywoman Dixon kind of thanked me for being here, but I'm just a talking head. The real organizers of the crime watch portion of this, Bill Larkin, Mel Williams, Dr. Van Vu, D. Woods, Lisa. Trudy, so thank you all for putting this on. I'm going through my notes here, and we covered almost everything, and I talked to a lot of you beforehand. One other issue we wanted to talk about before we get to the Q&A, and I promise we'll get to the Q&A, is homelessness, right? So homelessness could be a draw on the police force. I think Mayor Pro Tem talked about her ride-along where 7 out of the 10 calls were for homelessness, right? 7 out of 8. Okay, so wow, almost 95%. So homelessness is also an issue that, even though it's not really affecting the burglary rate per se, it does draw on our resources, the police resources, and I know there's been a lot of effort, especially at the county level, Be Well and some of the navigation centers to address this. So we're lucky to have representing Supervisor Doe's office, his chief of staff, Mr. Tran. I'm wondering, sir, if you could talk a little bit about what the county's doing to help us with the homelessness problem and any other issues.
Well, thank you, Greg. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. And I see my old colleague. We serve in the state legislature together. My name is Van Tran. I was also an elected official, both at the local as well as in Sacramento. So I feel Janet and Diane's pain right now, especially during our time. I was hoping, frankly, to talk about transnational crime because with my background, I've served as a legislative staffer for two members of Congress. I'm also a lawyer, an attorney. Know Todd pretty well. We served together as well in the legislature and did a lot of immigration law, which also affects and deal with the U.S. State Department as well as Homeland Security. With what's going on right now, not only in Huntington Beach, but throughout the nation. Hopefully we can touch on that. But very quickly, on the issue of homelessness, Supervisor Doe, who I serve and work with as his chief of staff, we have been pouring in millions, if not billions of dollars within the next 5 to 7 years to deal with the homeless issue. Right now with navigation centers. I know the city of Huntington Beach, through the leadership of the mayor, is fighting a very strong fight, good fight, providing the resources. And as you know, homelessness is not a simple issue because it involves mental illness. It involves also drugs and also addiction issues as well, in addition to many other issues. So what we are doing at the county level, in which we are receiving funding from both the state as well as the federal government, is to provide assistance and also work in partnership with the cities. And the city in our district, District 1, which covers Huntington Beach, but also Garden Grove, Fountain Valley, and Westminster. And some of you may have heard that we've opened or broke ground on opening a navigation center. We call it a navigation center. Does anybody know what that means? Navigation, because it's not only a homeless shelter, it's much more than that, because employees from the county as well as specialists, social workers, who are there to also provide counseling, job search, and other types of social service assistance as well. It's an intractable issue, but comparing to Orange County and Los Angeles County, we are light years ahead. It's not an easy issue to resolve over the years, but it's a lot better. If you go down to Santa Ana, where the Civic Center is, we've cleared the homeless situation there. If you are driving on the 91 freeway towards Riverside, along the encampments, we've also cleared a lot of the homeless situation there as well. So it's an ongoing issue in which not only one agency, not only the Sheriff's Department, but we have a coordinating council that we meet every month as a task force in which all the social service agencies, including probation, social services, as well as Orange County Resources, and also the district attorney's office, Spitzer, also comes to our meeting as well. To basically come together, sitting in a room like this, and pound out issues and policies to resolve, because it's going to require everybody joining hands together and not basically solving problems in single silos, and that's where it is. So hopefully, I know it's a recap, but we have a lot of issues to cover for, including transnational crimes as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Tran. And you know, where has the time gone? It's been a very informative evening so far, and we haven't even gotten to the questions yet. So for the question and answer portion of it, because this is being live streamed, if you do have a question, raise your hand. I don't know if I have enough cable here. If not, then just come walking up to the front here so everyone can hear your question and answer. Yes, sir. Come on up.
So I was hoping that the senator and assemblywoman would still be here for this question, but I'll put it to the panel, and Van, perhaps you can respond. But with regards to fentanyl, earlier today, DA Spitzer was asked about his optimism about Sacramento moving forward this legislation as the senator and assemblywoman have proposed. And as we all know, they seem to be handcuffed more than the criminals in doing so. What does it take to change the mindset of our policymakers in Sacramento to have common sense to move legislation to criminalize something that's so deadly to our citizens?
I'll tell you, that's oxymoron, Sacramento and common sense. So I will tell you, as someone who served in the Assembly and Senate, let me just say, it is unbelievably frustrating, the kind of philosophies that are up there that are just not working for everyday citizens in California. And I will tell you from my personal experience, unfortunately, sometimes have to get so bad that people rise up. But what I would encourage everyone to do in this room is look, you already know Assemblywoman Dixon's with you, you already know Senator Wynn's with you. Start flooding phone calls, emails, and organize like you've never organized before on these issues, and pound, and I always say, make sure that the governor hears from every one of you every single day. And I'll tell you, we've led the charge on a lot of issues when I was in Sacramento where it was blocked. I'll give you an example, workers' comp reform. Every time I came to the district, people wanted the reform, they wanted the reform, and the governor just wasn't going to budge. And so what we did is we did what the Assemblywoman was doing. Okay, forget the compromise. We're going with a legislation, we're going right to the people, we're getting signatures, and they freaked out because they know they're going to lose when it goes to the voters. And it really forced, at that time it was Governor Davis, that's how old I am, but it forced him to come to the negotiation table. And I will tell you, common sense in Sacramento, it's far worse, in my opinion, than it's ever been, because it is frustrating when we talk about issues that have to do with people and protecting people, and I just think they're out there. I always tried when I was an elected official, and I still do this today. Look, I could agree to disagree about being disagreeable, and that's kind of what my brand is. I like to talk to everybody, and I want to hear from everybody. Not just people who voted for me, I represent everybody. And I always, when I was in the legislature, try to put myself in other people's shoes, and everybody has different life experiences, different philosophies, and so I get that. But some of this, I just don't get. Some of this, I just don't get why you wouldn't do everything in your power to keep our kids safe. I just don't get it. So to answer your question, flood the governor's office. If the Assemblywoman's moving forward on an initiative, sign that initiative. Do what you can. And now we have the technology that was today is far better than when I was in the legislature in terms of organization. We have the ability with social media. We have the ability to get things done and organize. And what I would also do is always talk to your front line. The DA does an amazing job, the sheriffs and our police force. I always, personally as mayor, talk to each and every one of them. What do you need? What tools do you need? But I know they also weigh in. And I will say, Mayor Pro Tem Vandermark and I are on the committee here. We're actually voicing as a city on a lot of these issues, and at least letting our city say this is wrong, and we're lobbying and we're calling folks. So I'm sorry about the long answer, but it's imperative that all of us let our elected officials know we're upset.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Question from the floor.
A question to the Chief of Police. Forgive my accent. If you do not understand, I will repeat it. I am a resident of Gilbert Island, and next to me is Admiralty Island. And it dawned to me that it might be a good idea perhaps to install a gate on 19th Street between Tiburon on the right and Grimaud on the left. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. Is your opinion that it might be a good idea perhaps to deter crime?
So to directly answer your question, I have to say I can't answer that until I go survey it, look at it, see what your specific, there's going to be a lot that goes into a fence there and a gate and things like that. But I'm happy to come out and look at it with the city and figure out whether it's feasible, whether it's not feasible. We also have to do, there's traffic studies, there's some other things you do. It's not just really simple, but the first step is going out there and looking at it. So we can do that, and I would ask Lieutenant Altenbach to you guys to get together sometime today, and we'll take a look at it and we'll decide. We will look at the feasibility if it is possible and it's something that we determine should be done. Then we'll definitely recommend that through our processes up through the city and to city council.
Great. Any other? Okay, here we go in the back, in the green. If you can, I don't think the cable's going to reach it that way, but I'll meet you halfway. How's that sound?
Hi, I've been living in Huntington Beach in this neighborhood 32 years, swam in the ocean every day. I no longer feel safe to go down to Sunset Beach because of the people who live there, and I'm just wondering if you folks have had time yet to do anything to remove some of them who are threatening to us, or if not, what steps are being taken? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. So I will tell you, we monitor Sunset Beach diligently, and we are very aggressive in our outreach. We're aggressive with our Be Well outreach, and we are there with the community association. We go to their meetings regularly, and we discuss issues. We were able to, with the support of the council, add some lighting there. We did some experimenting with street sweeping. The residents there sometimes like street sweeping, sometimes don't, because there's some issues when you have to move your car. But the general green belt there, I mean, there's always a couple of transients that come through and go, but you've got the 4 or 5 that come during the day to the area by Jack in the Box. It's the little area there, and they come and we contact them literally daily, and we offer them services. But if we're not seeing something that is illegal, then we're not able to arrest them, we're not able to move them, but we continue to offer them services every single day. And I've seen, there was one gentleman there that was a long-term problem, and Lieutenant's probably missing part of his ear because I chewed on it constantly about that person, but he's gone. And we do have some success. The thing to realize here is that for us to have success with people to get to a point where they accept services, it takes us contacting them sometimes up to 1,000 times. And then finally they'll get to a point where, because of our contacts, the relationship, and because of the good work that our Be Well folks do, the van, once they develop a relationship and they develop a rapport and they develop some trust, that could take a year. Then they'll get that person to accept services. And the ones that want services, we will take care of them today. There's nobody there that wants services that isn't getting taken care of. I can promise you that. This goes back to the bigger issue of see something, say something. If you see something and you see a person there that's doing something that is suspicious or wrong, and I know it looks suspicious when somebody comes with a shopping cart full of things and they go sit in the park all day, it looks suspicious, and we'll come check that out just upon the look. But if you see something they're doing, call us. And if you can get it on your phone without getting assaulted, and I don't want you going up and videoing them, but if there's a way to get that, we can see that and we can take appropriate action, because we share your concerns. We want people to come. We have so many visitors, thousands of, actually, millions of visitors every year. We want them to come to our green belts. We want them to come to our beaches, and we want them to feel safe. We want the residents to feel safe. Sunset Beach overall does not have a high crime rate by any stretch of the imagination. But the goal is to get it to 0. And I want to help you with that. And we can do that through reporting. So if there's something specific that you're seeing, right to your left is a lieutenant, and he'll come out and talk to you and then go more over that. But we are here for you, so please call and we'll come out.
Hey, Chief, thank you very much. And I think at your roundtable with the mayor, you talked about some statistics where Huntington Beach is one of the only cities where we saw the homeless count actually decrease. Can you talk about that a little bit?
That's correct. So the overall unhoused population went down, which no other cities have done. And we are. It's because of the outreach efforts. Because this is something, you always hear police chiefs say, you can't arrest your way out of this problem. You really can't arrest your way out of this problem. You can arrests become part of the process when people don't accept services after a long time and they're engaged in criminal activity. So what do? We go, our goal is to get services because these people that are long-term homeless, you know, the backgrounds are horrible. If you listen to their stories, they're terrible. They didn't just become this because they wanted to. There's been trauma, there's co-occurring disorders, there's mental illness, there's that gets exacerbated with alcohol and substance abuse, and then they become this person that they never intended to be. So we try to deal with them, and we get Be Well out there to deal with them. But because of the efforts, we have been able to lower that population, and because of the good work of our city council getting the navigation center. You know, in navigation, our center today has, I think it's 170 people out of 174 capacity. Those are 170 people that would be on the streets today. They've accepted services. Now we're trying to improve the functioning of that facility so that we can get people there that have been there for a month or 2 or 3 for a while. We can get them transitioned into permanent supportive housing. That's the goal. Then they're out and they're moving on with their lives. Because you can't just give somebody that's homeless a housing voucher and expect them to survive. It does not work. There has to be intensive services that go along with that. Once you get that, you can have a formula for success. But we are one cog in this very large machine. But we're diligent, we are devoted, and we look at ourselves as the person that has to go arrest these folks. When they're doing something wrong, we certainly do that. But we also want to help them through so they can move on, and when they come back, that they're productive citizens, or when they go someplace else, they're productive citizens. So, but thank you for the question.
Great, thank you. We've got a question up here in the front.
So let me just add, you referenced it now 2 or 3 times, the Mayor's Roundtable. Has anybody seen the Mayor's Roundtable? Raise your hand if you have. Okay, I didn't think most of you have. I think it's important. What I wanted to do as a mayor is do a better job of communication. And I want all of you to, the next time I come here, to raise your hand. Because what I thought was very important in doing the Mayor's Roundtable is I get to be Johnny Carson, like I am today almost. Like I bring in great speakers and I get to ask questions. And I think it's important for all of you to know what's going on at City Hall and what's going on in our city. So the first person I interviewed was Chief Parra. It was an amazing interview. You'll get a lot out of it. Go to our website. I know it's been on local HP3, right, Jen?
It's on the city's YouTube. It's also on the city's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And so, so not only did we interview Chief Parra, we interviewed Diane Dixon, Janet Wynn, Chief Haberly, that you know all the things that the fire department does. I guarantee you have no idea how much they do. And I'm going to bring in people all the time on the show so you get a good flavor. It's a little bit of what we're hearing tonight, but if you haven't seen the interview with Chief Parra, it's phenomenal. He does, as he is tonight, he did a phenomenal job on that TV show. So I'm sorry, that's a little plug for the Mayor's Roundtable so people could see all the great speakers and the information that you'll get out of it as residents of Huntington Beach. Go ahead.
Chief Parra.
Yes.
I have a really important question for you, sir. I've been through about a 5-month roller coaster, emotional roller coaster. I have a tenant in one of my industrial buildings that barricaded himself in the building. Violent man, a history of assault and battery, armed and dangerous. And I went through the process because it was a civil matter of getting the sheriffs to help me. Thank you very much. And it took a little while through the process. And of course the sheriff's department's a little bit backed up, but they came out here on June 6th, on June 5th, and they helped break into the building. We were not sure if he was in there. We were not sure if he was in there armed, etc. Plus he's got several assistants and we didn't know if they were armed or not. The sheriffs broke into the building and inspected the premises, made sure everything was clear, and of course posted on the door the action that had occurred. My heart was beating 1,000,000 miles an hour. I was very fortunate that the building was empty. As soon as the sheriffs left, within less than a minute, this individual swooped down into the parking lot. One of his barricade methods was taking one of his trucks, backing it up to the building so the locksmith who was there to change the locks could not get to the door. Very clever. All the other doors were chained closed. Minutes after the sheriffs left, he swooped down with his big high-powered truck and pulled in between the tow truck that I had to move the barricade. And I was there defenseless. I had already spoken to your department about a possible need for help. I made that call for help, and I have to compliment you and your entire team. Within 4 minutes, 5 police cars arrived. But more important than that, I have to compliment you and your entire team for Sergeant Lewis and Brian Drake, Officer Brian Drake. So the question that I'm leading up to, and I hope you grant me permission, I would like to show my appreciation by presenting these 2 officers at a city council meeting with a plaque of my appreciation. Would you let me do that?
If I was to say no, my IQ would be about 0. So the answer is definitely going to be yes. There's some procedures we'll go through to get you there, but absolutely. And I would ask that you connect with the lieutenant here again, and we'll organize that. But bless you, and we're here to serve you, and that's what we do. So thank you.
Let me also add, and part of that process is, please, Jen, raise your hand. Jen Carey, talk to Jen, because we do the Mayor Spotlight Awards, and this is exactly the kind of thing that again, it's an initiative I started that we highlight. There's so many people that do so many great things for our city, and Mayor Pro Tem Vandermark and myself, twice a month, we're there from probably at the city chamber, probably from like noon till about 6, back to back every 15-20 minutes, thanking volunteers who work for our nonprofits, thanking the law enforcement officers, thanking city staff, or thanking just people who deserve to be thanked on behalf of the city of Huntington Beach. And so the Mayor Spotlight Awards, I would like to do that. If you give the names on top of your plaque, we'd like to do that from the city. If you can coordinate that with Jen Carey, we'd like to do that in the very near future.
The one thing that impressed me the most about Sergeant Lewis and Officer Drake was the professional well organization that they displayed. I'm a retired corporate president with 450 employees and 6 offices around the world, and watching these gentlemen perform their duties was amazing. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more meetings, or meetings. Feels like 1 or 2 more meetings. 1 or 2 more questions. So any other questions? Yes, sir. Let me bring the mic to you.
Yeah, I'd like to say that what the chief was saying about just homes for the homeless is, I don't believe it's going to work at all. My brother's homeless, and I own the Beef Palace Butcher Shop at Warner and Springdale, and I have my own little village.
Thank you for your support, by the way.
No, my pleasure. And I'm so happy with the reduced number of homeless in the city, and it's very obvious, and it's due to the policies of the current administration and the new police. Thank you so much. And so it's made it a lot easier. But I've tried to separate some of the people that I feed or take care of behind the market, because I felt sorry for them like little birds. And there were those that would accept help and go to the navigation center, and the hardened ones who are homeless deliberately said, "Oh my God, the navigation center, there's no drug or alcohol in there." And there are police inside. So and my brother was in one of the hotels where there's no supervision with a group of his friends, and they put him in the hospital. He was in a coma for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I got him to get his Social Security, and he pulled his wad of money out to buy a pizza, and they nearly beat him to death because there is no supervision. And so any of the homes for the homeless are going to wind up being crash houses.
So thank you for that. And what you're talking about here is that it's just such a complex issue that you can't just, again, like I talked about, you can't just put homeless persons or unhoused persons into any location without the services. And part of those services involve mental health counseling, conflict resolution, life skills, a level of security, things like that. So it's as we all know, if this was an easy issue, it would be solved. It's not. It's something that we continually work on and we continually try to improve. But thank you for your story, and that's tragic. I hope your brother's doing okay.
Okay, I think one more question, and then we have to call it a night. We started a few minutes late, so I think we can go a few minutes late. We got the hand up right here. And yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions for the legislatures that are already left, but what they said, or what I heard, is they're busy making new laws. So my question is, are they using the sunset concept, which means you make a new law and you get rid of a couple that aren't valid anymore, the buggy whip, whatever it happens to be? That's one issue. Is that concept being applied? Can it be applied? And that's at the city level too. The second one is, what motion or movement is being made to enforce the existing laws? We've got a DA up in LA County that has his interpretation. Is he following the law? How do we get support for you guys? I mean, I talked to one of your policemen probably 3 or 4 months ago. He caught a guy who was going up and down the street, flipping the doors, pulling out the earplugs from the cars. Turns out the guy was a drug addict. The policeman, as he explained it to me, said, let's go look at your apartment over here. He did. He arrested him. Before the policeman could complete his paperwork, the guy was back on the bench shooting up. So you can't do your job if you don't have support, my theory. And everything I've heard is great. But what can we do to get, is it the judges, is it the legal system, or is it just the mindset of the whole system that has to change?
Well, let me open with thank God you live in Huntington Beach. And I will tell you, I can say this firsthand because I served with him in the state assembly. We have a tremendous DA, Todd Spitzer. He does a remarkable job for Orange County. He is the exact opposite of the DA of LA. And he does a remarkable job for all of you in Huntington Beach. That's number one. Number two, it is a source of frustration I had when I was in the legislature, that too many legislators judge their success on how many new bills they pass, or regulations, is what I call it. You know, think about it. There's 120 members of the legislature, and there's some of them that introduce 50, 60 bills. I think, you know, do the math. You know, we don't need, we don't need that many. And sunset clauses have been brought up in the past. Obviously, people don't do it. And quite frankly, there was even a session there in the legislature where we limited the amount of bills, that each member could do. And then what it really came down to is leadership waived the rules for their friends to, let them do their bills, and it just limited the people that they didn't like that they couldn't do their bills, which I think is not fair when you talk about representation of everybody throughout the state. But I will tell you, it is a frustration in terms of what's going on in LA. But thank God you live in Huntington Beach, because I will tell you firsthand, Todd Spitzer does a remarkable job as our district attorney here in Orange County. And we just met, but I just know Todd, and I know he runs a really good operation in the district attorney's office.
One thing too, Mr. Mayor, and Brad, maybe you can talk to this as well. One of the things that our city attorney has done is he's actually brought in a prosecutor directly for the city. And so some of those crimes that you're talking about, sir, we have our very own prosecutor embedded with the city's attorney's office to take care of just those types of things that you're talking about. Brad, is there any more to talk about that, or?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, obviously I agree with the statement that Todd's done a great job, and he is my boss. And I did interrupt him last week, as Chief said, so I definitely have to say that. But reality is, yeah, look, there's a difference between our county and LA, right? And DA Spitzer is doing the best job he can trying to control what is within his control. The reality is for California and for Orange County is that law enforcement is limited by the resources in which they are given. So Huntington Beach, throughout my career I've noticed when you look at how many arrests you can make, if you double your cops, you might be able to double your arrests, right? Because crime is unfortunately in a lot of places. And so when law enforcement has support, both financial but also community support, by the way, as well, right? Because you want law enforcement to be proactive, and you want to encourage the men and women of our police agencies to, when you do that, you will get what you all are getting in Huntington Beach. You'll get good police work. So there's that component. Then you have another component, which is my side, which is on the prosecution side. I am limited, and I'm proud of this, by the way, but I'm limited by the laws that we have. I don't agree with all the laws that we have, but I like that I have a clear, defined role of following the law. The downside of that is I'm at the mercy of Sacramento, whether good or bad, we're beholden to that. So the challenge for DA Spitzer, and I don't want to speak for him at all, but the challenge for our job is we're fighting a lot of different fights in the court system, right? So we're fighting that there's bail issues that we're fighting, so we're trying to keep certain defendants who deserve to be in custody, we're trying to keep them in custody. When someone gets caught and convicted of a crime, we're trying to make sure that they get the right sentence that is appropriate for that crime. Sometimes that's a challenge. I'll tell you, a large number of the defendants that I'm prosecuting as it relates to the home burglary are recidivists. They have violent and serious felonies in their background. The vast majority of my defendants for my team are out of county. Most of them are not Orange County born and bred. They're either from another country, they're from LA, San Bernardino, Riverside. So what you have is on top of that, you have, and I really am not being political, I promise, but you have laws that are not as tough as maybe they could be. And so you have a target-rich environment in Orange County, and you have very little punishment for that. And if any of you are parents, you understand that without consequences to your kids, they will get out of control. Well, adults are no different, right? So when you spread the word amongst the criminal community that there are no consequences for their crimes, then that crime will continue to flourish. One of the things that we're trying to do in the DA's office is to try to say that, hey, cost benefit for you, criminal, that the cost of doing business in Orange County or the cost of doing that crime in Orange County is simply too high. Don't come here and do it. But again, because we are limited by the court system as well as the law, that's challenging. And so not only do the laws hamper us, but we also have the courts as well. So I can file my case, but if a judge would like, the judge can give a sentence that I might disagree with and give that person a much lower sentence than I would like. And on top of that, you have credit, so a person could get a 10-year prison sentence, and they could do 33% of that. And so some of those things are just practical hurdles. Whatever you fall on the issue of crime, those are the practical hurdles that you deal with in combating that, especially the more serious crimes.
Great, thank you very much. And I think that's enough time for, I think we're over time actually, but I want to give two more shameless plugs if I can. One is you guys, at least the Harbor residents, actually the whole city does, have a resource that I'm not sure everyone knows about, right? You have a Harbor Commission. That's made up of 7 people who live in the harbor. All of them except for one is here because she's out of town. We got Bill Larkin up here in the front row. We've got Dee Wood out there in the middle row. We've got Mike Van Voorhees over there in the middle row. We have Dr. Van Vu who's standing up over there. Yours truly, and Chris Nielsen. And the other person we have on the Harbor Commission is Kimberly Milligan. And all of us, our whole role for the Harbor Commission is to be advisors to the City Council. That's all we do. We are the eyes and ears, if you will, to the City Council on providing advice to them on how we can make the harbor safer, cleaner, better infrastructure, the whole 9 yards. Chief Haberly in the back is our staff leader. He's really taken the Harbor Commission on. That's why you see, for example, the lifeguards at the beaches now, the patrol boats. So you have a resource. You have people, your neighbors, that you can talk to if there's a harbor issue that you want to get addressed. And we have business cards with a QR code that'll take you to our website, so you can do that. So that's plug number one. Plug number two has to do with the police force. And if you go to the roundtable and listen to what they discussed, the police force, at least a couple weeks ago, was down 31 sworn officers. That's a force of 232. So you're talking about 86% manning. And I'll tell you, I'll go back to my Navy days. We won't operate a ship at 86% manning. It's just unsafe. You can't do it. You can't fight the ship that way. And it's a testimony to the police force that our crime rate is so low, even though they're manned at 86%. So that means 8 officers are doing the jobs of 10 because the work is still getting done. So BZ to him. And then if I can piggyback on your comments, one of the greatest things that ever happened to me when I was in uniform was just a stranger walking up to me and saying, "Thank you for your service." Do the same to the police officer, right? They don't hear it enough. People don't want to be cops anymore because of all the bad press. Thank them for their service. It goes a tremendous amount of ways to boost their morale and keep them happy. Am I wrong about Chief? Okay, great. Thank you very much. So let's have a big round of applause for our panel here. Thank you all for coming out, and we'll be here to take any more questions offline.